What's going on, guys? Welcome to In the Zone. I'm your host, Garrison Roy, and we're going to have a very special episode today. Typically, whenever you usually tune in, we have rants or full-length interviews, which we'll have today, mental minutes to help with the quick mental game hacks to help elevate your performance, and also deep dive educational explorations into small intricacies of the game. But today, we're going to get a little bit on the business side, but also still be within baseball. And if you have any other future questions, topics, or guest suggestions, feel free to reach out to us at In the Zone Podcast 123 at gmail.com. But without further ado, we got Travis Chock from Baseballism. What's going on, my man?
What's going on, dude? I appreciate you having me and thanks for reaching out. Like I said, I like to hop on as many of these things as I can and just, spread a love for the game, spread our brand.
Oh, 100%, dude. Like that's the name of really what I think the essence of everybody does, whether you coach, whether you're in business and
Mhm.
baseball, or even if you're just a fan, right? We do it for the love of the game. Right? Whether it's something
Absolutely.
we remembered back when we were younger or, the feeling that we had when we were playing Little League, like it's some very unforgettable moments that we have.
Absolutely, man.
I love it. Well, yeah, I guess I'm familiar with baseball, and I'm sure a lot of other people have seen that. I have a few of your guys' shirts and stuff like that. So, shameless plug there. But, just I guess let's kind of open it up. Let's maybe say there's a listener out there who's like, I don't really know what baseballism is or what it's about. So how would you kind of describe that to someone who maybe just be kind of off the street or someone who may not be too familiar with your guys' brand?
Yeah, so what I tell people when people ask what baseballism is, and there's been a lot of confusion over the years, especially we've kind of pioneered the lifestyle baseball clothing market. People used to come in our store and say, "Oh, can I get a helmet? Can I buy a bat?" I'm like, no, we don't sell that. But basically, what baseballism is, and what it is to me, is it's a brand that you can wear away from the field that shows that you have a passion for baseball and it's affected your life in a positive way in the past or currently. So it's a humble way of saying, hey, like I may not play baseball anymore or I play baseball, but this game has affected me and I'm a baseball person. And so that's what baseballism means to me.
Oh, that's it. And a lot of guys' identity does get kind of rooted into that, whether they practice and played for so many years, or maybe now they're coaching their son and, now they're turning into a fan, just little things like that. But I love that. That's honestly a great way to put it. And I definitely think thinking back, you guys were probably the only baseball type of attire. Shoot, probably whenever social media first came out, and you guys were kind of that only presence that I really knew about. And then obviously, as the internet grew and things like that, there was more brands that came out and about. But you guys kind of stuck to your roots there, and you guys were able to just continue to have that message of baseball being kind of a almost it is a culture, right? Like it's obviously there's baseball culture, but then there's the little sayings that you see on shirts and stuff like that that like probably only a baseball person would get, and grandma seeing it and they're like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we got our audience, is like f to find people that, were like us, that lived that baseball life, played their whole life, or parents that have kids that play on the weekends and during the week, or even kids that, are in the thick of it playing high school ball. I mean, we found those people by those little baseballism sayings that really only baseball people know about. Like 6 + 4 + 3 = 2, live life like a 3-1 count. Like you don't know what that means unless you live it. So that's kind of how we found our people. And like we were fortunate enough to get started in kind of the golden era of social media where, Instagram was brand new. And when you had a lot of likes, you got to the popular page. And when you had 10,000 followers on Facebook and you made a post, then 10,000 of your followers would see it. Now it's like, we have a million followers on Facebook or Meta, and when we post something, only 20,000 people see it and you got to pay for the rest. So
Mhm.
back when we started it was in 2012, 2013, it was brand new. And so we started at the perfect time. We kind of grew from the outside in really because we had a ton of followers and most of our followers are not where we're from. So
Yeah.
That's kind of how we started. We were very fortunate how we got started, but also like, we put some good content out there in the beginning, so that really helped.
It definitely did. No, you guys definitely have some solid content out there, and I look back on some of them like, wow, yeah, throwback post, or even just some shirts that I see some guys wear. I'm like, you've had that for a while. It's like
Yeah,
really,
man.
really old a line there, or maybe a newer one that you see, and you're like, oh, okay, this guy's just now getting into it. Um, but there's a lot to be said for being a first, pioneer in a particular industry. If you got all the systems in place and things, you're ready to rock and roll, you take off pretty quickly. Um, would you say you guys, was there a spike of popularity where you guys kind of had to go through some growing pains at all, or was that just something that naturally grew over time, or how did that work out for you guys?
Yeah, there was definitely a spike, I would say, early on. I think it was in our first year in like our first full year in business in 2013, when we posted about, live life like a 3-1 count. And we posted that. I think we had maybe 10,000 followers on Meta at that point, and maybe like a couple thousand on Twitter. But when we posted that, I don't know who reposted it or who what that person did, but it got seen by hundreds of thousands of people, and it had like 15,000 shares. And back when you had only 10,000 followers, like 15,000 shares is huge, right?
Yeah, that's nuts.
And so that kind of put us on the map as far as like brand awareness goes.
Hmm.
And then 6432 was another big one. We did that one in our first year in business as well, and that one just exploded. I mean, like I'm in my, my past job, I was an educator, baseball coach, and I envisioned myself as a teacher in a classroom, a math teacher, writing on a chalkboard, 6 + 4 + 3 = 2. And it was like a baseball class. So that's how I posted it on social. I had a chalkboard background, chalkboard writing 6 + 4 + 3 = 2. And I just posted that, nothing else. And then I think the caption was the math makes sense. And I posted it on Baseballism and it just went crazy. I mean, like I could not believe it. It did more than live life like a 3-1 count. And then people started asking, can you make that a shirt? Can you make that a shirt? And like we're like, oh yeah, we can make it a shirt. So we made it a shirt. And you look at it and you're like, this shirt is it's not gonna sell. But since then we've probably sold over $2 million of that single shirt.
Wow.
So and I would argue that it's probably one of the most popular like single t-shirts of all time. Because I mean, we've sold so many of that one t-shirt design, and that along with Live Life Like a 3-1 count, that really kind of solidified. When you think of baseball lifestyle, you think baseballism.
That's it. Dude, I love it. That's really cool. How just to kind of see that growth and then what you guys have grown into now. It's really neat. Um, I guess from having like, just little sparks of ideas and stuff like that, like, especially us as creators, me doing podcasts or other little posts here and there, like you guys coming up with your own content, right? Like a lot of that creativity is probably just something really simple, but you just have to continue to do it. And, you know, all those may not hit or be like viral posts necessarily, but, you know, you got to put every guy on base to hit a grand slam.
Well, absolutely, man. I mean, you got to swing, you just might hit it, right? Swing hard, you just might hit it.
That's
So
it.
I
That's
mean,
it.
like
I love it.
we
How do you-
there's a
Oh, go
lot
ahead.
of I mean there's a lot of tweets out. I mean, I think my first year in business, I was like I would just tweet to everybody, like follow baseballism. If you love baseball, follow our brand. And I tweeted to, big leaguers, people in the baseball industry. And, I for every 1,000 tweets I sent, maybe two famous people would follow us and retweet us. But I mean, if you do that, day by day, every single day, I mean, you're gonna that the two a day adds up. And so
I
that's
get it.
just how we grew when we first started. Because we didn't have a huge capital raise, or I don't have a friend that that was famous in the big leagues that helped us grow. We were just four college baseball players, never played pro ball, didn't have a huge following. We put together $10,000 and we started this brand. And I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of is that we earned it, man. Like we weren't given a golden spoon. We just grinded. And I think
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people appreciate about us is that, You know, a lot of like when you see some other brands, you're like, oh yeah, that's easy for them. You know, like her sister's famous, or you know,
Mm.
like his buddy is, you know, in the big leagues and has 100,000 followers. Like we started from nothing, and yeah, it's just one of the things that we're the most proud of. You know, is being those grinders, kind of just like embodying the baseball culture and just like getting through it.
No doubt. Was that so kind of going back a little bit on that history with the four of you guys being, former college baseball players? Was that something that you guys just thought of, off the top of your head to start out, or was it did you guys see it growing into that? Or was that always the goal? I mean, obviously
No,
you have
man. So
some
how
history.
baseballism originally started was I bought, so back in the day, like you want to buy domains because it's hard to find a domain nowadays. Like if you want to start a business, the first thing you do is you check if the domain is taken or not, because
Mhm.
if it's taken, then you can't really name your business that. So in college, and this was in 2005, I believe, 2005, I bought the domain Baseballism. And I didn't know really what it meant. I mean, didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I was like, baseballs, man. This is kind of a term that I've used before for, you know, people who love the game or believe in baseball, believe in the life lessons that it teaches. So I bought the domain Baseballism, and then just to make some side cash while I was in college, I would do private lessons and stuff. And I needed a website, so I made it baseballism.com. And then fast forward to 2006, my friends and I, my three co-founders, we started a baseball camp. And I was like, I have this domain, let's call it Baseballism. So we started this youth baseball camp in Eugene, Oregon. And at that time, we played club ball. So there wasn't a D1 program that kind of, you know, a lot of D1 programs or coaches run, an annual summer camp or something like that. There
Yeah,
wasn't nothing
right.
like that in Eugene. So we actually filled the void there by starting a baseball camp. And so did that baseball camp, called it Baseballism, made the original Baseballs and Classic logo with the drop bat, and kids just loved the t-shirt. And so we started the baseball camp, but what really stuck was the baseball t-shirt. And so after we graduated in 2006, we went our separate ways. I actually was a teacher and a baseball coach in 2012, and I started selling baseballs and t-shirts out of the hitting facility I was doing private lessons out of. And they saw it in a couple of weeks. I'm like, guys, I think we got something here. And then when I talked to my guys, they were like, man, everyone's asking me where I got the t-shirt at, you know, that we made back in 2006 with the baseball cap. And so we're all hearing the same things. Where'd you get that shirt? Where'd you get that shirt? And so we launched a Kickstarter, and then launched our website in 2013. And it just a snowball effect till now. It's been crazy.
No doubt. I love that though, because like just hearing that whole story is like, hey, we grinded, we were able to do this, we didn't get spoon fed, we found something and stuck to it. And there was probably a lot of grit and determination to even just power you guys through where you are now, too, right? You're literally having to figure out this whole business thing as
Oh
you
yeah,
right? Like you don't have all the answers and you just kind of piece it together and figure it out. And as you grow, you have different problems that are, like more money, more problems kind of thing, right?
for
You have
sure, for
more
sure.
other more complicated problems to deal with than just like,
Yeah.
hey, how do we grow this brand? But starting out, like obviously you had some of those viral things, but what would you say to someone maybe they're trying to start their own t-shirt or maybe it's a training company or whatever it is to like help grow their brand? What would be some tips that you would give them to kind of help them out with that?
I would say just from experience, I mean, like hindsight is 2020, but if I could go back, I would say the most important thing we did is we grew at our own pace.
Mm,
You know, just kind of just like, you know, there's like, I mean, there's all kind of plants out there that, you know, get steroids and like all that stuff, and they grow faster than they should, and they end up being unhealthy for you or whatever it is, or out animals or whatever, like your produce. I
mhm.
think that's kind of like a business, right? Like grow at the pace you're supposed to grow. Like when you, of course, like people are gonna want to throw you a bunch of money and like make you try to grow faster than you should. But we kind of stuck to our guns and we kind of bootstrapped this thing, and we grew at our own pace, and that was super important for us. The other thing that I think was really important for us is surrounding ourselves with with the right people.
Mm,
Even back when we started the baseball camp in 2006, I picked the teammates that really filled a void within myself. Like I know that I don't know law. I know that I'm not a huge numbers guy. I'm also not a big guy to like talk and sell things all the time, right? But I know I'm creative and I know how to, talk to kids and talk to people and provide meaningful content. And so of the four of us, one is a lawyer, one of us was a financial manager, and the other one was a sales rep for a sporting goods company. And so between the four of us, we were surrounded by people that were good people, but also filled a void, within ourselves that we weren't great at. And so together, as a team, we kind of are the complete package. And so I think that's why we were able to kind of like be one of those brands that stuck around after the initial Facebook and Twitter
mm.
push when social media was in its golden era. So, I mean, those two things, grow at your own pace and also surround yourselves with the right people.
No, I love it. I mean, and that alone, like even what you were just saying, that almost sounds like an all-star, like, you know, having all those type of just CEOs, co-founders, all of them having different voids, like you said. You have one person that's really good at this, and having those strengths complement each other to make a really solid team. It's
Yeah,
almost kind of resembles a little bit of a starting rotation in a way, if that
for
makes sense.
sure. It's the baseball team, man. I
Yeah.
mean, like I played third base. Our lawyer guy played second base in college. We had a pitcher and we got a catcher. And that's kind of how it worked um, as we were growing is like we all worked hard, but we all stayed in our own lane. It's like I didn't tell my finance guy, oh, I think we should be doing this with numbers and we should be spending less on this and this about it. When he tells me, hey, this is how much you're going to spend, that's how much I spend.
Mhm.
And so I don't second guess it because I don't play catcher. He didn't play third base. And so that's how it was really comfortable for us because we could thrive in our own positions and be ourselves and also work together as a team. So I mean that was huge.
No doubt. Now, that's, I mean, even in life, like that's just a life lesson, like you said, for what baseball teaches you, even going on. You're like, hey, like you hear it maybe even whenever you're coaching guys hitting wise, like, hey, stay within yourself. Like, don't swing out of your shoes every single pitch or like try to do too much.
Yeah,
Same thing, even what you were just talking about with growing at your own pace business wise, right? Like, it's like, hey, you gotta not try to do too much or take on too or bite off more that you can handle, right? But those things are very applicable all through life. Like you hear about it all the time. And we hear coaches like after the game, they'll huddle us around, right? And they're like, hey, these life lessons will carry on all through the rest of your life. And we're like, yeah, okay, coach, I just want to win this game. Right. But
yeah,
now looking back, you're like, dude, there was a lot of things like even just being able to be like, hey, keep fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Or if you strike
yeah,
out 3 times, don't strike out the fourth time. Little
yeah.
things like that. Or if you can't do it with the bat, go do it with defense. Find your strength and be really good at it. And, surrounding yourself with the people that fill those voids is, yeah, dude, that's
That's
huge.
it, man. I mean, when you make an error, go get the next one. And like I realize that now walking around, like that baseball helped me so much with that because I've dealt with people that, haven't played, team sports or haven't played baseball, and they cannot shake it, man. When something goes wrong, they just let it bury them. And
Yeah.
that's
Making
not
one
true.
mistake.
That's not true
Sure.
for myself. It's not that true for most baseball people. I feel like it's like we really know how to forget quickly. And that is such a huge lesson when you play sports in general. It's just how to be okay with making a mistake and not being perfect all the time.
No doubt. Yeah. You can't be a perfectionist and be good at baseball, or even like you say errors. Like it could be a mistake of like sending a shipment out. Be like, oh, well, hey man, like, you know what? I'll wear that one. It's on me. We'll ship you a new one, or, whatever might be going on. Like those little things you can't let bring you down at all because they're going to happen. It's just life,
Absolutely.
right?
But it's huge on social media too, because when you get a lot of followers, there's always, the trolls or the haters out there. It's like, oh,
Mm.
this looks horrible. And honestly, like back when we first started, I'd be like, oh man, maybe we should change this, or maybe we should change that. But now it's like, someone's gonna say something bad. It's like, you know what, like they can have their opinion. We're just gonna do what we do. I mean, like we can't please everybody. When you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. And so we've just kind of let that kind of roll off our backs now. It's just like baseball, man. You make an error, you make a mistake. You got a fan in the stands heckling you. You just can't let it bother you, man.
No, yeah. I mean, there's, like you said, the troll bots or the haters. Like, there's going to be people out there who hate baseball and they're just, for whatever reason, they want to use their fingers to just go at it in the comments. And you're like, we shouldn't like pivot our business model based on someone who doesn't even buy anything from us or, probably put any stock into that. They just came across a wrong ad or
Yeah, I
something,
mean, like,
something in that algorithm spit it in their feed and they're like, what is this? You
for
know?
sure. And there are times to respond to people, if they have a genuine concern, they have a product that they're unhappy with. Yeah, we'll definitely respond to that and make sure, we take care of it and they were treated well. But a lot of people, like, they haven't even bought our product. They don't even know what we're about. And they send some hate comment and it's just like they don't even deserve a response. And so that's where we're at now. We're very mature when it comes to that. And I think that separates us from a lot of other brands because I know when a lot of people start out, they care about their brand so much and like as they should, but man, when you get into a Instagram comment fight with somebody, it just is nobody wins on that. Even if you're trying to stand up for your brand, nobody really wins.
No, it's very true. Well, and there's something to be said for that too. Like even, hecklers in the stands, if you want to relate it to baseball, or even just people in the comments, like you got to let it roll off your back and just continue to let the stick talk, right? Or let your glove talk, whatever it is, whatever saying you want to have to spit out there, right? Like it's gonna
Absolutely, man.
be the way that how you should just go about and tackle life and not let that bring you down at all.
Yep, and
Because
that's
some
just what baseball is, man. We try to teach that through our apparel, you know. Like I
same.
said, I started off as a coach and an educator, so I mean, like, it's really what it is. It's just, trying to explain to people what the life lessons in baseball are without really explaining it. And I think that's why people followed us from the beginning is because I feel like we connect that for them, you know.
Mhm.
Say like the baseball is just it's more than a sport, it is really, it's a life lesson.
Absolutely. What's one of those, I guess, do you have a story or something of a life lesson that the game taught you that just kind of stuck with you all through these years that you are just like, yeah, like if baseball taught me even just one thing, like this was probably the situation that I got it.
Man, I think the one thing that baseball taught me is the value of work ethic. And I learned it pretty late. Um, like when I was younger, I was, super talented, played shortstop, didn't have to lift weights, didn't really, practice in the off season. And eventually everyone else caught up with me, and it wasn't until college where I started lifting weights, spent extra time in the cage after practice. I had the keys to the cage, so I would go at midnight to the cage and hit by myself and put on and like basically just think about the opponent's third baseman versus myself. And I just said, like, right now he's not working. I know that he's not working,
Yeah.
but I'm working right now. So I'm either gaining ground on him or I'm separating myself. And in baseball, you can really see on the field when the work pays off, right? You can't always see it in work, like in life, you don't really know, like your paycheck may not reflect it if you're outworking somebody else. But in baseball and sports in general, you can really see that work pay off. And when I saw that work pay off on the diamond, I applied it to life in baseballism. And I said, you know what, we're gonna do more than anybody else. And so I love the times when I'm up at 2 a.m. designing something or doing extra for baseballism because I know that 99% of my competition is not doing what I'm doing. And so that's one thing that I think really translated for me from sports, from baseball into business and life is the work will pay off, whether you see it or not. Like it will pay off, and if it hasn't paid off, then you haven't worked hard enough. Like we had a quote the other day. It was like, "Hustle, hustle will find the diamond, and lazy will find the bench." And like where there was a few comments below it that said, "Oh no, in politics, like sometimes the kid that hustles doesn't find the field." And that's true. But what happens if you keep hustling through that?
Hmm. Yeah, you
No,
can't play the victim through that at
no,
all.
I mean, like, yes, it's true for that season, but if you keep hustling, like it's gonna pay off eventually. It may not pay off literally on the field, but if you keep hustling through life, it's gonna pay off. Like
Yeah.
that's what we mean by hustle will find the field. It may not be the literal baseball, but it may be, you may get the job, you may start your business, you may get the girl you want, you know, but hustle will eventually pay off and lazy's going to find the bench. And if it hasn't paid off, you haven't hustled hard enough.
Oh, that's it. That's it. I mean,
Yep.
and just to kind of pivot off of that, right? Like you putting in the work and just getting more on the training kind of aspect of things here. But, for you to actually get in the zone and be locked in to what you're doing, you have to put in thousands of hours of work in before then, before you even get to that point, right? So, it's not just something that's just going to click or happen. It's not, all of a
Yep.
sudden you're like, oh, wow, everything's in sync, everything's in. No, like you have to put in the reps. You have to make sure that you're going to the gym, making sure you're strong enough, making sure everything's mobile enough, all that stuff in order for it to line up for you to have that one game winning moment, you know, homer, double, or maybe even just the closing strikeout to lock it in for your guys for your team, right? Like those things are the result of those 2 a.m., like you were saying, the designs that you're doing at 2 a.m. or the result of, putting in extra work. And I tell this to my guys all the time. Real practice is not whenever you're with your team. Like, yeah, you need that stuff, but real practice is whenever the team practice ends. That's when the real things start right after that. Because it's all about
Absolutely.
what you're going
You
to put in.
separate yourself, man. Yep.
You have to. You have to. And I'm sure that definitely happened for you guys whenever you were first starting this thing out. Like, in order to separate yourselves, you guys had to put in the work. You had to do, you know, all the content, all the just quality of work, taking care of customers as best as you could, right? As much as you could control, you try to control that. And same thing even for when you're playing the game, right? Like you can't control what the umpire says or all these other things that are uncontrollables. You got to make sure that you stay locked in and just stick to what you can control.
Absolutely. Yep. Hard 90, man. I mean,
That's it.
you may hustle a hard 90 100 times and you may get thrown out 100 times, but the 101, 101st time, the first baseman's going to bobble the ball and you're going to be safe by a step, and that's why you got to do it every single time. You can't leave a margin for error.
No, you can't. And that kind of reminds me of like, we've all played on like the little league teams where you have the one kid that's maybe not as good, or maybe,
Yeah,
you're running a camp and you're a coach and you notice that and you're like, okay, hey, but this kid just keeps on hustling. Then as soon as he succeeds, like everybody just like erupts and they're like, yes, oh yeah, like he finally got the hit, or he finally got on base, or, finally caught a ball. And, I think having little wins like that, we kind of take that for advantage, especially after it's, something that's common for us to do. But we still have to kind of celebrate those little wins that we get, whether it's having another post that went viral, or hey, like we have another t-shirt design that's starting to take off. Like maybe it's not the most selling out of all of the t-shirts that you have, but it's like, hey, like we got to celebrate this one. This one's really good. What did we do good? What should we continue to do about it? What should we do differently in order to continue to have that upward progress, right?
absolutely, man.
Well,
Always got to get better, man. Can't get complacent.
you can't. not at all. Well, what do you guys have cooking up for I guess the coming months through baseballism, man? Tell me a little bit about what the future brings.
Yeah, so I mean, spring training is always big for us. So we're doing a couple giveaways at our Scottsdale store during spring training.
Right.
Uh, some really cool hats. I mean, we've developed a very good culture of like celebrating baseball events when they happen. So the beginning of baseball season is huge for us. So a couple of spring training giveaways in Arizona, but I think the biggest thing we have on the horizon is a collaboration with Tony Gwynn and his family. So we're releasing a Tony Gwynn collection mid-April, maybe early May. But I'm super excited about that because I mean, Tony Gwynn is just a dude, man. I mean, we've been trying to get that lights for a long time, but it's hard to get in touch with, some of his, his wife and his son. So when we finally got a hold of them, we showed them some designs and they love it. So we're really excited about it. And if you're a baseball guy, man, like I don't know anybody that dislikes Tony Gwynn. You may not love him, but he's just one of those guys that's just respect, right? So
Oh, I
super
know.
excited about Tony Gwynn and the designs. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed with it. They are quite awesome.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see those. Honestly, I'm going to be subscribing and trying to figure out when I can actually press buy on
Yeah.
that thing right there. Uh, but even like you were mentioning about Tony Gwynn, and like some of the stats that he puts out, or you see some of those on like some posts or reels, and you're like, this dude never got out, or he never like struck out. Like that alone is
Crazy, man. Like
pretty
he's
wild.
never struck out more than like 40 times in a season,
Yeah.
which nowadays is just, I mean, like anytime it was crazy, but nowadays, players are striking like 250 times a season. So it's like he never struck out more than 40 times in a season. He batted over 300 in every season he played, I think, for 20 years, except for his rookie year when he had like 50 at bats or something like that.
Hey,
But
yeah,
he,
he's freaking
like,
bad.
even when he retired, his last season, he was like batting 315. And it's just like, my goodness. I think also like he's like one of the only players to have a over 300 batting average with two strikes on him, which is
That's wild.
insane. That's
Yeah.
insane. So, I mean, Tony
I doubt
Gwynn,
that will be beat anytime soon. That's for
and
sure.
that's how we're going to lead up to it. I might be disclosing too much, but we're going to lead up to it with those stats. We're going to be like, all right, Tony Gwynn releasing in X amount of days. And then here's a Tony Gwynn stat that will blow your mind.
Just
And so,
absolutely like off the wall. And it wasn't like he was really, you have some guys who are like, oh yeah, he was playing back in the day, but he was facing like Hall of Fame dudes
oh,
during that process too.
yeah, I think John Smoltz was on a podcast that I listened to, and he said that between him, Maddox, and Glavine, like opponents had like 135 batting average or some super low, and Tony Gwynn was batting like 360 or something.
Against
It's
all three of
it's
them.
just crazy,
Oh,
man.
that's
Like
nuts.
his stats are like some of the most like outlandish of any baseball player.
Yeah. And it's some of those things that, you hear about intangibles, like some of the things you can have statistically like written out, but he had a lot of those intangibles too. There's just like, okay, hey, like there's some things here that probably can't really be measured on how good this guy actually is. Well, awesome. Travis, dude, I really appreciate you coming on, man. Well, how can guys get a hold of you if they wanted to reach out or, just find out a little bit more about baseballism? Where's their go-to spots?
Yeah, man. So we have 11 stores across the country. Some of our biggest ones are outside of I don't know if it's not called SunTrust Park Arena, but it's where the Braves play. So we're in the Battery and in Atlanta. We're outside of Oracle Stadium, San Francisco. We're in Irvine. Um, our big one is in the Field of Dreams. So if you go to the Field of Dreams, we got a store right behind the backstop, and
No way. That's
that
awesome.
is my that is my favorite store right now. Obviously, Cooperstown, New York, where we started. That was our first store. And then for the All-Star game, we're going to be in Arlington. So we're in Texas Live in Arlington, but mainly baseballism.com. If you don't live in any of those places, that's where you can find us. Instagram, we're just at baseballism. TikTok, we're at baseballism clubhouse. So I mean, you can find us pretty much anywhere, but I mean, yeah, shoot us an email if you want to get in contact, believe at baseballism.com. So
I love it.
Definitely appreciate you having me, man. Like this has been great. It's great talking baseball. I love doing it.
That's it. No, that's all we love to do, right? Like how we started it out. We're doing it for the love of the game, man.
The game, dude. We put that on our website. We put that everywhere. Like our jock tag say for love of the game. So that's what's all about, man. We embrace the new, but we respect the old, and that's what's kept us in business so long.
I love it. I love it. Well, that's a good spot to end up on, man. And for those of you listening, appreciate you tuning in and stay in the zone.